be reviewing today is Tuesdays with Morrie, and today we have a guest with us, Miss Sukaina. Can you kindly give your overview about the book, Miss
Okay.
Sukaina?
Hi, Miriam. This is one of my most favorite books. And there's this thing about books that I feel that you can go back and revisit a book, and it really depends on the relatability of the book and what it offers to you kind of changes with time. So, this was a book that I read ages ago, like I guess about 15, 20 years ago. And I had a different perspective back then. And then when I revisited it again recently, when you brought it up, there were different things that I was taking from it. But either way, every time I've read this book, it's had so much to offer. And one of the best parts about this book is that it's really simple writing, and it it kind of oversimplifies a lot of things that we talk about. It Most of the things that seem pretty obvious to most people in life. Okay, let's just go back to the gist of it, what this book is really about. So it's very simple. It's about a student and his teacher, and him basically revisiting his teacher again after much later in his life when he's busy with a lot of things, and he's kind of lost uh, in a way, and somehow he reconnects with his teacher when he finds out that he's not feeling well. And when he revisits him, he goes back and he starts talking about life in general and what life has to offer. And so they start talking about different things that most of the people think that they know of. They talk about love, they talk about death, they talk about life, they talk about what's important, they talk about faith. So all of these things that seem pretty generic, but it's the perspective that Morrie brings, and Morrie is basically his teacher. And what I love about this book is that it just there's so many concepts that we overcomplicate, right? And these are things that everybody goes through. Um, but it's Maury's fresh and simple perspective towards these things that just makes it seem so much more easier to understand. And most of the times, like there are these certain quotes and stuff that we're talking about. He talks about, for instance, the tension of opposites in our life, which is something that I have been recently thinking a lot about, right? Where you think that when you're younger, there are a lot of things that you do just because you want to do them, and you get away with it too because, you've got that liberty too. But then as you grow older, you're caught between this choice of where you want to do certain things, but you can't because you're expected to do something else. So he talks about things like these, right? So the tension of these the opposites in your life that you experience a lot, and what makes it easier for you to make that decision. And then there are other things where he talks about, there was this other quote that I was looking at. Yeah, so he's talking about usually when you see people, and even at a difficult stage in your life, for instance, this teacher of his, Maury, right? He's suffering from ALS, and he knows that death is inevitable, as everybody does. But for Maury,
Yeah.
he knows that he's got limited time, and he's a few months away, right? But then again, Maury isn't seen feeling sorry for himself, and that's what surprises him. Mitch Albom, the author himself. And when the takeaway that he has from it is, again, he talks about it and he's like, well, what is this perspective that Maury has, right? That sets him aside from the other people that are so unhappy despite of having everything.
Yeah. And like
And
even in the book, they say like make peace with living. Like that's one of his lessons, lesson 13, that like, you should be happy that you're alive.
exactly. No, but just the very simple things. Of course, you're happy that you're alive, but then again, he adds to it that usually the reason why people are so unhappy where they are right now is because most of the people are kind of the culture that we have around us, built most of the cultures, they're not really serving people. There's this this expectation of people because of the cultures they're in and how they're supposed to act. And usually that's what's making people so unhappy. And why one person has to be strong enough to sometimes just understand that if there's a culture that doesn't serve their purpose, and they need to move away from it, just don't
Yeah.
buy into it. That's how he
Yeah.
says.
And that's
And then
another end
again,
of his practice, that another one of his lessons were like detachment. Like you need to
yeah,
detach yourself. Like he said, like
yeah.
not me because I'm just dying, but you have to detach yourself from everything while you're alive as well.
Exactly, exactly. But then again, when now he's talking about detachment, but at the same time, he's not talking about detachment in a way that you are living selfishly, or you're living your own life and you're not really worried about the people around you. I mean,
Yeah.
even in the very first chapter or so, or was it the second chapter? I can't remember. Where he goes, like when he meets his student after so many years, right? When they're
Yeah.
reconnecting, and there are these simple questions that he comes up with. And the first thing he asks him that, have you found somebody to share your heart with? And are you going, and how exactly are you giving back to your community? And
Yeah,
are you at peace
exactly.
with yourself? And then he's like, aren't, and then the last thing he says is that, are you trying to be as human as possible? Right. So again, these are things that seem really simple, but then we kind of forget about these things as we move on with our life, right? We get so involved within our own life, like the guy over here does as well, right? The author Mitch album.
Yeah.
He's become this great writer, and he's the sports
Yeah.
writer, and he's got a good job and a great career, and he's got this articles that he keeps publishing in a column to himself and everything. But, you know, he's experiencing detachment in his own way, right? Detachment in a way where he's not as involved with the things that he should have been involved with, and he's not
Yeah.
as involved with, he's just busy with life, right? The rat race. So the balance again that he talks about here, yes, you should be detached, but you should be detached in a way that you're not too connected to things in a way that they overwhelm you. But at the same time, you're just connected enough in a way that it's serving you as well as the community around you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love this book. Always so much to take away
And I
from it.
think
And I think
like
you can read, there's not a lot.
yeah,
Two
yeah.
to 3 hours and you're done. It's a really
Yeah.
good book.
And I think we'll end with, I think the chapter that I like the most is like when he says family. And he says like, even though I'm dying, look at me, they're all around me. So
Yeah.
like that's a lesson that he was giving him as well, is that, no matter whatever you do, wherever you go, you should always have your family with you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Thank you so much,
Definitely.
Mr. Kaina, for being here, and thank you for the book review. See
Most
you,
welcome.
see you soon.
See ya.